Hello again and welcome to Artists Alive. Artists Alive is brought to you through the courtesy of your arts councils in Yuba and Sutter counties. We operate under the guidance of the California Arts Council, and we'd like to thank Cable Channel 5 for helping to underwrite the expense of this production. We're bringing another artist into your home this week, and also are going to give you a reminder before we introduce you to please make sure that your comments and suggestions are conveyed to us by dropping us a line to Artists Alive, P.O. Box 150, Marysville 95901. If at any time during our shows you find interest in the artists and you'd like to thank us for bringing them to you, or you have a suggestion of an artist of your own, please write to Artists Alive, P.O. Box 150, Marysville 95901. Your responses, by the way, will help us to get grants to continue to operate these programs and also help the arts councils function a little more freely. Philip Sciortino, it's my pleasure to be back with you again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you back, Tom.
For those of you that don't recall Philip, we did have him on our Artists Alive series last year, and we learned a lot about the basics of marble sculpture and a whole lot about the finished product as well. It wasn't just basics, I shouldn't say that. You gave me a good instruction in reference to how it all came about, and you gave us an opportunity to see some beautiful finished work. We're privileged to be back this year to see a whole new array of artwork, and you've changed a little in appearance. I've changed a little in appearance. We're going to see how you can make material like marble change in appearance. There's a new addition that's in the foreground, and before the show's over with, we're probably going to speak about that. I would venture to say that the piece that's behind us had a lot to do with that, or was it vice versa?
Vice versa.
It was vice versa. This being the study,
That's
so
right.
to speak?
That's exactly right.
Great. This looks like something we're going to be spending a lot of time on, and though for those that remember the luster that you have the ability to bring to your marble sculpture, it's obvious that this piece is not yet completed.
That's right. That's right. I've just gotten to the point with this sculpture where I've made the transition from rasps, small rasps, to sandpaper. And that's really a point of graduation. It's something that I look forward to because I have a lot of hours in this particular sculpture. And it's kind of like going from one grade into another. It's an actual graduation. So now that I'm into the phase of sandpaper, this has been with a coarse 80 grade sandpaper, and then I'll graduate from 100 and go to 200, 300, on up to 600. And at about 600, I think that's where you caught me last time when you were here. Another sculpture was sitting right here. And it was just starting to, in fact, I think I was polishing it with the ultimate tin oxide that behaves a little bit like cleanser and a lot of elbow grease. And
so
then
we were seeing a luster.
That's right.
We were seeing a luster.
That's right.
Which we don't have here yet, but boy, what a nice finished surface compared to some of the pieces that we saw you in the midst of last time.
Oh, yes.
This piece of marble, is this the same one that was sitting here the last time?
Yes.
So you haven't tackled this one?
No, I'm waiting for someone to commission me to attack this piece.
Well, let's hope that maybe my lottery ticket will come in between now and then, and I'll be able to do you some justice there. This piece, this almost floating sculpture, this space planetoid type of piece we saw last time on Artists Alive, but you've added something new this time. Once again, as if I recall, we were talking about this particular addition to this sphere object to denote almost a gaseous surrounding to this piece. Tell me about what you've done as far as the platform and why you did it this way.
Well, I really appreciate your choice of words as you describe it, gaseous and light and so forth. Those are just the kind of qualities I was trying to create with a cosmic object, which is what I call it. In regards to the addition, this sculpture was rendered well in advance of the base that it sits on. So I looked at this for some time, trying to figure out just exactly the best way to mount it, and I thought of various kind of prongs to hold it and so forth. But I just finally narrowed things down and came up with the idea of what I call as a shadow. So I might use this technique again for other sculptures. I'm going to make a base and a pedestal for this, and I thought, well, maybe I'd follow the perimeter of this as well, but I don't think it would be so suitable for this. This one here at least works better. So it's kind of a reflection, and that's how
exactly
that came about.
what it is. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to shoot directly down from the top, but that's exactly what we have. We have the base mimicking the perimeter of the entire sculpture, and what a unique idea, and still allows the sculpture to cast its own shadow
Yes.
and work that way too. We talked a little bit about material last time, and if I remember correctly, the skirted figure that we were working on had what we could probably say almost a distressing crack in one particular place. I won't get back into that.
No,
Don't
that's
get
all right.
excited.
I've gotten over it. I've gotten over it.
What was interesting is that you told me that it was very seldom that we do run across a piece of material that doesn't have some flaw.
Well,
of
that's
some
been
nature.
that's been my experience, but really, if I had my way, I'm sure that I could find my way to the absolute best. But very many sculptors, especially American sculptors, ones that I have made some acquaintance with, have go to Italy and choose their marble. And those are the ones who care about perfection in marble. Really, there's a school of thought in marble sculpture that it really doesn't matter what faults. In fact, when I bought some faulty marble from a particular dealer, he talked about certain of his clients being able to use some of these faults as a desirous quality. But my technique is I try to do the very best work that I can do, and I really do look for the very best of marble. And I've acquired quite a lot of marble in just recent times, and I'm happy to say I don't think that I'll find too many problems in the future.
That's great. I only brought up the subject because in preparing for the show I commented on the slab that we have sitting over on the work table, only because it seems to be the closest thing to perfect in color that I've probably seen in your studio.
Yes, it's one of 18 sculptures that were given to me by a monument dealer in Sutter, Ralph and Donna.
Oh, in Sutter, California. Oh, yes.
And it's a pleasure to thank them here in front of Arts Alive for their generous gift, because they're 18 pieces of beautiful marble. And this is a typical specimen of all that marble. And it's just about free of any kind of extraneous mineral intrusion, like you see here, like these little gray streaks. But these little gray streaks I find as a positive adjunct. Unlike cracks or certain other marks, I like these little flecks. This is typical.
Especially for this piece of subject matter. It's almost as if there is living and breathing air around it, and that's almost the shadow of what it is that you see.
I think it works well with the fact that the cosmic kind of atmosphere, a marvel kind of thing that we might have even seen in planets.
So new things this time. We see a piece of marble that's virtually, well, almost perfect. I see no flaws, which we didn't see here last time. We see a new concept as far as base is concerned here. But we have a new concept in base compared to last time here as well, with this piece that we opened our show with previously. Previously meaning last year. This was suspended last time. Now you have a new base. And tell us about how you came up with this concept of supporting.
Well, I can best do that by kind of explaining the idea that I had in mind by designing such a sculpture that presented every difficulty in mounting. As you recall, or some of the viewers will recall, last time I had it suspended, which was a temporary display. I wanted to make an organic piece of sculpture out of stone. That was my challenge, to make a rigid, hard piece of material to seem to pulsate and be alive. And it was just, it's always, and it still is disturbing for me to have bases that are hidden and gone, as if I didn't care about that part of the sculpture. I care about the sculpture from every direction. A flat base, to me, I don't have any sculptures that are just have a base that are totally gone. With this piece here, I'll tilt it over eventually if we get to that, and you'll see that the bottom is worked as well as the top. And the Greeks did that even in making their bas reliefs. Very often they found in order to make a homogeneous design that they could not neglect a certain aspect and just work on one face. So they would go around behind and work on it to some extent. But it became ridiculous for them to get too carried away at the top of the Parthenon. But you can get around behind some of these friezes and see that they're actually worked to some extent from behind. So with this piece here, I totally ignored the mounting aspect and said, well, with an organic piece, I cannot concern myself with that. But later I found that it becomes an awful lot to be concerned with because it presents special difficulties. So I've made these brackets in order to show it as if it were a specimen in the Smithsonian.
This piece, same treatment.
Same treatment. Mm-hmm.
And a great, and an added example of what you were saying in reference to having a completed form in a total surrounding of as far as the piece is concerned. A great idea, a wonderful idea. I would have probably, if the concept would have come through my mind, I would have been worried in reference to balance, because it does seem to be precarious, but in actuality it seems to be a fairly sturdy support.
Well, actually, this piece is utterly stable. Yeah, you can pull on that, and it's stable. This piece here, probably before I sell it, I'll tap a little hole in the bottom of the sculpture and put a little pin in the bottom here and a little pin in the bottom here. Although it's stable here, it's stable. You see the pedestal is rocking along with the sculpture. Still, nevertheless, I think Tom, you're right that it is just a bit precarious, and I think I'll solve that problem by tapping it in the bottom, right at the bottom of this little cleavage here in these pieces, and that'll make me feel a lot better.
I don't believe that we ever spent a whole lot of time talking about the romantic base as far as the concepts that you work from here.
Well, romance is just preoccupies mankind, and perhaps the entire animal kingdom. I'm no different. We can find in all of our music that they are essentially love songs. And my sculpture is that way to me. I have many new ideas for the future, and most of them do not include romance. I had no children when I originated these designs, and perhaps that was a certain amount of frustration for me. And so here we have an impregnated female. Here we have, this is, if it's not obvious to the audience, this is a male and this is a female. She's impregnated, and this is a conception. So perhaps the fact that I didn't have children, that very idea subconsciously preoccupied me. Now that I have them, I'm doing lots of sculptures that don't have that theme anymore.
The famous wave, we talked about this last time as well, but the reason that I'm interested now is because we happen to have a smaller form.
Yes.
And while we're talking about this smaller form, we might as well spend time in discussing the study that we mentioned at the beginning of the show too, because this obviously is something new for you in reference to spending a lot more time with the lost wax process.
Yes, that's right.
Do I see your mold over here?
Yes, indeed.
You've really embarked upon something that's going to give many people an opportunity to have a Sciortino piece, I see.
I hope so. I do. I have a lot of hope for these bronzes. I need to be successful as an artist in selling my sculptures. The approach that I have to sculpture is an extremely time-consuming. I feel as though dealing with the lost wax process and limited edition, I'll not compromise any quality at all. I'd lose interest if I had to do that. But I can work together with a foundry and make limited editions and allow my sculpture into the hands of many people who just simply can't afford the time that it takes to render a marble sculpture. So I think I'll be able to do other people justice and myself justice by making these limited editions. I plan to make 250 of this particular piece here and 250 of this particular piece here, which incidentally I will polish within the same technique that I have done here.
Can you just spend a second for those who are not familiar with the lost wax
yes.
process and just give us a background on how one of these is pulled? And let me remind you that this is not a very obvious indication that you're getting away from romance.
No, that's a fact. Probably I became totally finished with the very idea of romance, at least for the time being, with this sculpture. I've spent so much time with this prototype, and this is the model for this piece, and now I have so much more time with this. I can't wait to do many other ideas that I have. Regarding the lost wax process, or the Sciortino, as some people know it by, it's fascinating. It's ancient, as well as marble sculpture is ancient. I love the results of polished bronze. Just going into a brief tangent here, I was just edified to hear someone say not long ago, not regarding my work, I don't want to appear to sound that way, but the comment was that I didn't think anything could be as beautiful as marble. So that made me really feel good, because I always thought marble was the absolute end for a medium, but I'm very happy with bronze. It's stronger also. The mold here is made of plaster. This is the outer mold, and one can make a complete mold from plaster as well. But the design of the original, the prototype, has to be relatively simple. So in releasing that, there cannot be any undercutting. But there is undercutting here, and if a sculpture gets, or an object becomes complicated at all, then it needs to be made of some other medium. And here we have the state of the art. You can see this black stuff. It's referred to as a black tuffy. It is a urethane rubber. And it's tough stuff, and it's just about indestructible, and you can make 500 sculptures if it's treated well at all. Here we have, if I can come over here, here we have the negative image of the head. I don't know if this is going to show up in your camera. We can see the lines of her hair here in negative, and we can see the small of her back, and then the flowing of the dress here. And this is really not a complicated sculpture. What's done originally? We don't have a bronze to begin with. You can use anything. What is so typical to use, even in the designing, is wax. That's what I use. I have a wax piece over here that I have that's in the state of development, very crude yet. And what I'll do is here's a head, here's a face. I'll make that face all independently. I'll make this ogre's head independently, or gargoyle's head independently. And then I'll fuse them together. This I call a struggle. Here we have a bird over here. And what's going on here is it's a battle, good over bad. Here's a good guy, and these are demons, or perhaps things that very many of us are afraid of, that don't really exist. It might be a struggle of the conscience, trying to be a good person or so, something like that. Here we have a typical hawk or eagle that's often a friend of mankind, that's assisting the good guy, nipping on this gargoyle's ear. But nevertheless, we're talking about the lost wax process. I just wanted to explain the sculpture just a bit. I make it out of wax. It's the additive and subtractive process. I could use terracotta or clay, but this is rigid and hard and has some advantages over clay in that I don't have to keep it moist. I can come and go as I please without having to cover it up, and it's tougher in many respects. So here we have it in wax. Here's an object in wax. The next thing to do is to eliminating some of the details and complications. Immerse the whole thing in a urethane or some other kind of rubber, a latex rubber, a silicone rubber, lots of different mediums. This one here is a urethane. Immerse it in rubber to make some complication, to cut through some complication. Picture it in a block of rubber. Take a sharp knife and cut all the way around it, and then you peel the top off, peel the bottom off, and you know you have a negative on the top and then the bottom. And then in order to reproduce the wax again, a hole is drilled in the top, more wax is poured in, and there we have the first print. So you can continue to make prints that way. I hope I've made myself clear.
I think you've made yourself very clear.
Good.
Not getting away from that particular piece. Oh, by the way, without attempting to sound too much like Barbara Walters, can we ask you how much you're considering selling a piece of this nature for?
I've sold 3 of these at this time, $650 a piece. I'm hoping that these are going to be a good investment for my clients. I hope the price will go up soon. I'm counting on it. So this is the base price, and I don't know what the ultimate price will be, but I hope it will be more than $650.
How wonderful that you've allowed everyone to have an opportunity at such a fantastic price, Philip. I hope the art world will appreciate your interest in making sure that everyone can have a piece of Sciortino sculpture. It is a remarkable piece. The wax piece that you just showed me, the study of the unfinished product, which we saw during our last show. I'm not going to let you get away without doing some chiseling for me today.
All right.
For the benefit of those that might have missed it last time. But I do see some refinement in reference to the study as well.
You mean you see a difference with this sculpture than with the model, than the prototype?
The study here. The study for this piece, the wax piece that you just showed me.
You find that more refined than this?
No, I find that more refined than the last study that I saw.
Oh, I see.
Or slightly different than the last study that I saw. There was a study that we had that went along with this
okay.
piece.
Well, that was the very same one. But since the last time I talked to you, I've attempted to clean it up so I can perfect it and make a mold.
I see much more Sciortino in this study now.
Do you mean to say that you're starting to see? I hope that you're starting to see a little bit of refinement come out of this piece.
Oh, definitely. The structure of the hair in the good guy, as you spoke of the good guy before, much more Sciortino there than I saw in the study the last time. You have done some more work on this piece, although you declined to make me think that it was much. It's obviously still in its original form compared to the terrific amount of work you've done there. Please do a few chips for us, and then we'd like to go to the large piece and close the show with that.
The last time that you were here, I think, was about the last time I worked on this. Fortunately, I've been busy with this commission, but I was anxious for you to return so that I could do a little more demonstration and get some more work done.
First of all, how did we get the smoother surface?
Earlier today, you noticed that I have acquired some power tools.
Yes, we don't want to talk about that.
Okay. Earlier today, I came skimming along here with my power chisel. Here we have the hammer and chisel, which by no means is replaced by power tools. Since I did mention it, the power tools takes a place in the very initial stages. And though it makes things move along rapidly in removing large portions of stone, as I said earlier, it's like driving fast. You can get you where you want to go real quick, but it's dangerous. So when I start getting close, I just resort, as other sculptors do, which is the technique back to hammer and chisel.
And necessarily so. You haven't had much luck in attempting to glue these chips back onto this marble, have you?
No. This bird here, that's the same sculpture that I just showed you in wax a little while ago. This bird here is, as far as I'm concerned, higher on this side than this fellow is here on this side. And I don't like that. I want this whole bird to drop down and slope down on this side as well, on the same degree of incline as that side. So I'm not going to hesitate in removing certain amount of stone over here. You see these marks, Tom?
That's all right.
Okay. You see the marks that are on there now come from a different kind of chisel. And that's a formative chisel, and a chisel that takes a measured amount of bite. It's referred to as a claw chisel. And this chisel doesn't have that measured bite that the claw chisel has. Now I'm coming up next to an edge. I'm not going to continue to go on right up here to that edge, or else I'm going to pop that whole corner out.
I see.
So when I get to that edge, what I would do is turn back around here and come that way. But I'm safe to go from here because I'm doing what I want to do here from this angle that I described coming from this side. So this is the wing section. Wiping your camera out, am I? I hope not.
That's okay, Philip. You'll just have to sell a couple of those sculptures to buy that new lens.
Right. Buy you a dust shade or...
We could be using that technique we talked about before that was a guess in reference to how the ancients used to do this and give a little tiny peephole to the lens possibly and keep the chips from going in there.
Okay,
Remarkably, we've really made a lot more progress in comparison to the little chisel that we used the last time. So this was really wonderful of you to show us that you do have the ability to make progress when you really want to.
Move rapidly.
However, when it comes down to a certain point, I see that your fluctuation of surface makes for a necessity for you to stop rather soon before you get get close to that finished point. Otherwise, I see that you could very easily end up removing more than you need to.
Definitely. The deepest spot is the precedent. The deepest cut, the valley, the deepest valley for my technique is the precedent. That's where I'll always have to go to.
Right. We have to move to the large piece because we're just about ready to leave. I'm sorry the time goes so fast for us.
It does.
But more sorry for myself, I think, than virtually anything else. This is remarkable. Where's this piece going? This
is going to go to Texas, I think. The person I'm making it for has a couple of places. I know for a fact the man is building a new home, and it's supposed to go in a niche. He told me to make something for a niche, but I couldn't make something for a niche. So I just worked it from every angle anyhow. So this I'm going to tell him is a reversible sculpture, but we have two sides to it. So when he gets tired of looking at it from one side, he can flip around in his niche and see the other side.
It's beautiful, Philip.
I think it's going to go to San Antonio, Texas.
And successfully displayed now the floating feminine form that we had last time. Is that in Denver? Or?
No, that's in Vail, Colorado.
Oh, Vail, Colorado. Excuse me. Philip Sciortino, I'm sorry to say we have to close out Artists Alive again today. We'll certainly be back as the years progress, and if not with the show, I certainly will personally, because I can't miss these things as they continue to progress. Marble sculptor Philip Sciortino has been our guest on Artists Alive today. We hope you've enjoyed seeing these half as much as I have. Marble sculpture, and now an opportunity for limited edition bronzes and a great polished bronze variety too. You know, some people probably don't understand that this is a remarkable way to view bronze because they've probably been too familiar with different types of patina that don't give this finished product appearance as this does. So you're to be commended for a beautiful piece.
Thank you, Tom.
Artists Alive is brought to you under the guidance of the California Arts Council. We operate courtesy of the Yuba and Sutter County Arts Councils. We need your comments on Philip's work and artists such as he and artwork such as his, so that we may continue to bring them into your home each week. Write to Artists Alive, P.O. Box 150, Marysville, California. I'm Tom Head. Thank you very much, Philip. Artists Alive will be back next week.